us about yourself?
Well, what I do now is, do you mean about what I'm doing now, Bethany? Yeah.
Yeah, what are you doing now?
Right. So I'm a trainer at the moment doing holistic therapies and beauty therapies. So I train in them particular courses. We have an academy based in Hayward called White Opal Beauty and Holistic Training Academy.
So why did you want to write the book My Reluctant Rebels, My Family's Fight for Survival?
Well, the reason why I originally wanted to do the book is because my experiences when I was younger and I was diagnosed with a chronic form of leukemia. And at the time, orthodox medicine couldn't help me, even though I'd had the treatment from them. The prognosis at the time was, my chances of survival were 0. So my parents, thankfully, took me to see a herbalist called Mr. Abbott, and he thankfully started to treat me with herbal medicine. And from there, that was when my journey began of my fight for survival, because my parents chose herbal medicine. Unfortunately, orthodox medicine, the hospitals weren't that keen on my parents' decision to do that. But at the end of the day, my parents had no other choice. They were given a diagnosis that I had no chance of survival. So unfortunately, they had to go against their own beliefs at the time. And luckily, this wonderful man, the herbalist, started to treat me. And from then, I really never looked back. But because my parents had chose alternative medicine, my parents, unfortunately, were constantly being by the hospital. They were constantly being threatened with me being taken into care because I've had herbal medicine, and because my immune system at the very early stages of after my diagnosis was very weak, I was picking up infection after infection after infection. So that was affecting my immune system. So my parents decided to take me out of education, out of my school, because I got an infection. They decided to homeschool me. But unfortunately, the education authorities at the time didn't want me to stay at home and be educated. They want me back in school. And so did the medical authorities. And for a number of years, my parents were, and it's harsh word to use, but it's the truth. They were terrorized by the hospital, by the education system. These people are there supposed to support you. I mean, my parents, I was very much, my parents did everything they could for me and my brother. They believed in education. They believed in orthodox medicine. But when that failed, when the orthodox medicine couldn't do anything for me, and, at the time, when I started herbal medicine, it was amazing how very quickly, my health started to improve. My immune system, understandably, because the treatment I'd had from the hospital was still quite weak. So they wanted to try and build my immune system up. So the only way was to bring me home and educate me at home. But, at one point, my dad was threatened with prison for homeschooling me and for having the herbal medicine. So, it's scary, really. We were just a normal family, just like any other normal family. It was only when I became ill and the hospital said they couldn't do anything for me, and when my parents, thankfully, and it is thankfully, chose herbal medicine, and the wonderful herbalist, Mr. Abbott, who saved my life from this terrible disease. And, you know, and because of their belief and because they, you know, did what they could for me at the time to make sure I had a good, steady education from home and the herbal medicine, you know, that literally saved my life. The two things, my parents saved my life because they constantly had to fight the system because my parents were using alternative medicine and the hospital, orthodox medicine, didn't like that. So they were terrorized for 6 years, 6 years from the age of 8 till, sorry, not 6 years, sorry, 8 years, from 8 till 16. You know, my dad was threatened with prison, you know, the numerous times that threatened with being taken into care, and all because they were fighting to save my life, and all because they were homeschooling me as well. I mean, in this day and age, you know, it's acceptable to have home education, but in them days, it wasn't the done thing, or it was very, very rare to actually be homeschooled. So I was on herbal medicine, which was very rare then in them days, and home education.
So could you, for people who might be listening to this, could you explain to them what herbal medicine is?
Well, herbal medicine is, so it varies parts of the plant. So say like the leaves and the flowers, different parts of the plant are used in herbal medicine. So, you know, it's all, you know, it depends, you know, what the condition is that it's actually treating. Because with it, herbal medicine and alternative medicine, it's about treating the whole person. So say, obviously, the leukemia that I had, it's not about that disease as such. It's about, well, something's happened in the body before that for this disease to manifest to what it was. So it's about treating the whole body. So it's not just about treating the root cause of the blood cancer, or there's something else that caused that to get to that stage in the first place. So the alternative approach with herbal medicine, like a lots of other alternative medicines, it's about treating the whole person.
So why would hospitals, the higher authorities, disagree with you taking this herbal medicine? Is it because you're not using the orthodox treatment?
Well, the thing is about it is the orthodox, you know, my parents, you know, I did have orthodox medicine, I did have the chemotherapy, but they said from the outset, when I was diagnosed with leukemia, Samantha's got a chronic form of leukemia. Samantha's chances of survival are 0. The only option we have is to try her on a form of chemotherapy, but you know, that is only going to prolong her life for a very short period of time. And you know, what they said was actually very, very true, because 5 months down the line, 5-6 months down the line, after having chemotherapy, they said to my parents, they brought them in one particular day and said, well, look, you know, there's nothing more we can do for Samantha. You know, best thing for Samantha is if you can take her home, and, you know, she only has about 3 weeks to live. Now, because at that time, my parents, you know, they'd gone the hospital way, you know, they said, well, you know, we'll try whatever to save Samantha's life. But when they actually said, look, there's nothing more we can do, and my parents went to the wonderful herbalist, Mr. Abbott, and I started to get stronger and stronger. Now, my parents thought that the hospital would be absolutely overjoyed. You know, I was still here, but their attitude was totally shockingly different to what my parents thought. Instead of being, that's amazing news, they turned against my family. They turned against us, and that was quite scary, to be honest, Bethany. It was scary in the fact that for some unknown reason, they didn't want me to continue with the herbal medicine that was clearly saving my life. And to this day, I still don't understand why. Why would you try and stop a family that have been given no other option because the hospital said they couldn't do no more? Why did they turn against my family in such a way and terrorize them for 8 years? I mean, I was very healthy at the age of 14, and I was cured by then. I didn't have leukemia by then, and that was purely down to the herbs and the herbalist. But why the hospital turned against the family because they were using alternative medicine and it cured me? To this day, it's sad, really. It is sad, and that's one of the reasons I think why I kind of shared in my book, or shared my story, because, there's lots of people that be in similar situations to what I was in, or parents or people, children or adults that have been given a terminal diagnosis, and they've tried conventional medicine, they've tried everything they can do, and if I can share my story and say, well, do you know what, there is an alternative option to treat terminal diseases. I was one of them that had chronic form of leukemia, but I was saved and I was cured by herbal medicine. So if I can share my story and it can help one person and save one person's life, well, by sharing my experiences and our family sharing them experiences, it'll be all worthwhile for us as a family.
So why did your parents have to pay for this treatment? Was it not part of the NHS?
No, it was private. So my dad. So it was private, so they had to pay for it. Yeah.
So if you could see the government now and say, can we, your evidence of herbal medicine, and how would you say to the government, we need to get this away into the NHS because it's an example of a treatment that for many families who wouldn't be able to pay for this treatment? So what would you say to the government if you could speak to them about herbal medicine?
What I would say is that, herbal medicine and lots of other alternative medicines, can help treat and cure lots of diseases out there. If I'm living proof that one person, that a terrible disease that I had can be cured by this, surely they should start to possibly look at doing clinical trials, because the problem here is they say, oh, there's not enough evidence. There's not enough evidence that this works, that this herbal medicine works. Right. Well, I'm here and I'm living proof that it does work. So why don't they conduct clinical trials to make sure that these herbal remedies are safe to use, which they are? I mean, pharmaceuticals that are making billions and billions and billions yearly, how can trials, they're allowed to spend an X amount of money to have these trials on medicines for 10-year trials to make sure they're safe to use on the general public? Well, you've got herbal medicine here, and this can save lives. It can cure diseases. It can cure diseases. I'm just one of them people. There's not just me in this world that has been cured of an incurable disease by using herbal medicine. There's lots of evidence, there's lots of research out there that there is proof that herbal medicine and other alternative treatments are safe, are effective, and can actually cure diseases.